What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Inside the Horseshoe. My name is Matt, and the Colts need a quarterback. They got rid of Carson Wentz. Now they got to go after another quarterback, so I came up with a list. This list is names I think realistically could end up in Indianapolis. I'm going to get into that in just a minute, but before I do that, if you're new or if you haven't already, I would greatly appreciate if you would click that subscribe button. Also, click the bell icon. That way you're notified when I upload a video or when I go live. If you like this video, smack the like button. Let me know your thoughts down below. Who do you want to see as the Colts quarterback next year? Let me know in the comments, and if you have a Twitter, make sure you follow me on Twitter at horseshoe_pod. There's a link in the description down below. So, as I mentioned earlier, the Colts, they need a quarterback because they traded Carson Wentz. And there's multiple routes that the Colts could go on to find a new quarterback, so I came up with a list. These are names I realistically could see the Colts going after. I don't love all the names on this list. I will say that. I just think these guys are realistic to go after. So with that being said, let's get into it, and let's start off with the guys I could see the Colts trading for. And there's two names that I could potentially see them trading for. And you guys probably know who I'm going to mention, but I'll talk about them still. Let's talk about the one I think has the best chance to be traded to Indianapolis, and that's Jimmy Garoppolo. So with Jimmy Garoppolo, we know he's going to be moved to another team. Clearly, the 49ers, they're going to be moving on to Trey Lance, and they're going to give somebody else Jimmy Garoppolo. Now, there are things Jimmy Garoppolo does that Carson Wentz doesn't really do that well. He'll take the checkdowns. He's a better game manager than Carson Wentz, I would say. He's a little more accurate, so there's that. But there are things he does that aren't as good as what Carson Wentz does. The deep ball, Carson Wentz is better with that. Carson Wentz can make bigger plays than Jimmy Garoppolo. And maybe we don't need that. But those are things Wentz does that are better, and he's a little more mobile. So there is that as well. Now, there's two things we got to keep in mind if trading for Jimmy Garoppolo. The first thing we got to keep in mind is Jimmy Garoppolo just had shoulder surgery. Now, everything went well, which is great, happy for him, but he did just have shoulder surgery, so we do have to keep that in mind. Whoever gets him is going to have to pay him $27 million. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I don't really want to pay somebody who is slightly better than Carson Wentz $27 million. I just don't want to. Is that crazy expensive for a quarterback? No, of course not. But I would rather use that money, that $27 million, on getting a free agent quarterback and then adding a wide receiver along with him, or a left tackle, or an edge, or a tight end. You name it. There's other positions that we need to address, and I would rather use that $27 million that we were going to pay Jimmy Garoppolo and use it for some other positions of needs along with quarterback. However, I do have an idea that I think could work for both sides in a trade. So, like I said, obviously 49ers, they're moving on from Jimmy Garoppolo. But there are rumblings going on right now in San Francisco that their center might retire. He's 36 years old. There's some people thinking he might retire. So you guys might not like what I'm about to say, but I think it could work for both sides. What if we do a straight up trade? Jimmy Garoppolo for Ryan Kelly. Flat out. And this is why it would work for both sides. For the 49ers, they would get a Pro Bowl center. Their center problem would be fixed pretty quick. They would pay him $10 million. That's not horrible for a center. And he's a good center, man. He's a good dude. He's somebody that would be really good in the 49ers locker room. Very talented. I like him a lot. And you guys might be like, well, you don't trade a Pro Bowl center. And I do agree with you for the most part. But we do owe him $10 million. So, if we traded him, that would give us $80 million to spend in free agency. We trade for Jimmy Garoppolo, that's basically like we're paying him $17 million. Because instead of, being at $43 million in cap space, we would be at $53 million in cap space if we trade Ryan Kelly. Because that would save us $10 million at the end of the day. And plus, Danny Pinter, when he played at center. He did a really good job. Now, I know Chris Ballard mentioned that maybe he can move to right guard, but honestly, if you can make him your starting center and you can get Jimmy Garoppolo for basically $17 million, honestly, I don't think that's that big of a deal at all. Because honestly, what would it cost to get Jimmy Garoppolo? A second round pick, a third round pick, a third and a fifth? Point is, I don't think Jimmy Garoppolo is going to cost too much to trade for. So, why not just trade Ryan Kelly straight up for Jimmy Garoppolo? It's a win-win for both sides. Colts get a quarterback, 49ers get a center. And it's a good center too, man. I love Ryan Kelly. But when you think about it, you got Danny Pinter, who's playing really good football when he's in there. He does his job and he does it well. Make him your starting center. Trade Ryan Kelly to the 49ers. Get Jimmy Garoppolo if that's what you're going to do. And you'll still have $53 million spent on weapons and, some of the defense. So why not? Let's do it. So that's definitely one guy I think the Colts realistically could trade for. The other is Derek Carr. Derek Carr I could realistically see happening too. I think it's much lower of a chance than Jimmy Garoppolo, but I do think there is a chance that, Derek Carr is available. Now, I know what Josh McDaniels said. I know what their GM said. Derek Carr's not available. I know that. But who else said their quarterback wasn't available pretty recently? Pete Carroll said Russell Wilson was not available. He ended up being available. So anybody's available for the right price. Now, it would cost significantly more than it would for Jimmy Garoppolo to get Derek Carr here. But honestly, I think it's worth it. The contract, it's not terrible. I think whoever gets him, assuming he moves, would have to pay him $22 million. Honestly, that's not bad. It's not bad at all. I would definitely do it, for sure. He's like my number one most wanted quarterback in this class, for sure. Like, I don't even know if it's close, if I'm going to be honest. I think Derek Carr is highly underrated, and I think on the Colts, Derek Carr would be really, really good. I don't know if they're going to do it. Maybe the Raiders, they see the division and how stacked it is, and they go, look, man, there's no way we win this division. Let's just trade Derek Carr and let's enter rebuild mode. And, maybe they do it. I don't know. Like me personally, I would love. Hold on. Now, me personally, I would love to get Derek Carr in this team. I really would. And I think there's a realistic chance that Derek Carr could leave the Raiders. And if he's leaving the Raiders, you would have to think the Colts are probably the front runners, right? Like, you would have to think that's probably the case. So, Derek Carr, he's the other guy, and I know some people are bringing up Jordan Love. No, Jordan Love is not going to be an Indianapolis Colt. I can guarantee you that right now. So now let's move on to the free agents. These are guys I could realistically see Chris Ballard offering a contract to. I'm going to start off with the one I think is most realistic, then I'll go second, then I'll go third. The number one guy I think is most realistic is Marcus Mariota. Chris Ballard had interest in Marcus Mariota before trading for Carson Wentz. I remember hearing it was going to be significantly cheaper to get Marcus Mariota, but Frank Reich, he thought he could make it work with Carson Wentz. Didn't turn out that way. Hopefully it does for him in Washington. But yeah, Chris Ballard likes himself Marcus Mariota quite a bit. So I could realistically see that happening. It won't be expensive. It would be a stopgap move for sure. So it would be like we'll sign Marcus Mariota and then we'll trade into the first round and take like another quarterback, in that class. So yeah, if they sign Marcus Mariota, it's definitely stopgap. For me, I just can't get behind it, if I'm going to be completely honest. There's been some games where Marcus Mariota looks really, really good, and then there's been some games where Marcus Mariota looks really, really bad. I don't really want him. I guess the benefit would be Marcus Mariota would definitely take the checkdowns. He would definitely get it to Jonathan Taylor more than Carson Wentz would. I think he would use Hines more often than what we used him last year. And he's mobile, too. That's another benefit to getting Marcus Mariota, but he's not the guy. I don't see Marcus Mariota being the guy to go after, personally. He's honestly at the bottom of my list, if I'm going to be honest, as far as guys I would like to see on Indianapolis. So, yeah, I don't see it happening at all. The next guy I'm going to talk about, he's the second best, chance as far as being signed this offseason. Mitch Trubisky. Mitch Trubisky is somebody that I at first was not really for, but when you sit down and think about it, it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. Look, 2018 with Chicago, didn't he go like 11-3 or something like that as a starter? Um, yeah, he played really well in Chicago. And Chicago had a bad offensive line, and we know their coaching staff is just not that good at all. I can't believe Matt Nagy won Coach of the Year. I can't believe it. That was ridiculous. But yeah, yeah, Mitch Trubisky goes out there 2018, plays really well. 2019 doesn't play good at all. That's when a lot of people turned on Mitch Trubisky. Didn't have a good year. They went, I believe, what they go like 7-8 or something like that, 6-9, sorry, 7-9. Is that what they went? I don't know, but it was not a good year either way for Mitch Trubisky. And then in 2020, his last year in Chicago as a starter, he went 6-3, took them to the playoffs against the Saints, took them in 2018 to the playoffs, and literally was a doink away from getting to the divisional round. I'm warming up to Mitch Trubisky. I think Mitch Trubisky, with a good offensive line and a good coaching staff, could play much better. Again, another guy that could make the layups. That's what Chris Ballard is looking for. Somebody who could make the layups. And that is Mitch Trubisky. Mitch Trubisky absolutely could make the layups. He will use Jonathan Taylor and Nyheim Hines. And look, man, if you get Mitch Trubisky and Allen Robinson in Indianapolis, there's already chemistry between Mitch Trubisky and Allen Robinson. It could be a lot of fun to watch, for sure. Because when they were together, Allen Robinson had big numbers. So maybe something like that happens again in Indianapolis. I don't know. But I could realistically see it happen. I'm starting to be okay with the idea of Mitch Trubisky. I think it could work because he would have a better offensive line and he would have a much better coaching staff than he did in Chicago. I think it could work. I think Mitch is going to be a starter somewhere. And if it ends up being in Indianapolis, like I said, I think it could work. Now, the last guy I'm going to talk about today, as far as free agents go, is Jameis Winston. Out of the free agents, he's my number one guy, for sure. But when I'm talking about the free agents, I think he's third on the list for sure. I like Jameis a lot. I thought Jameis this year, before that injury, proved that he could be a starter. 14 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. He had 1,200 yards to 1,400 yards, somewhere in there. Looked good. Didn't have any weapons. Remember, guys, he didn't have like Sanders and Cook and some of these other guys, right? Like a lot of these guys that he was throwing to, gone. Or at least Drew Brees was throwing to. They're gone. Michael Thomas didn't play. He didn't have weapons, but he still played really well, I thought. And the Saints were 5-2. I'll tell you right now, if Jameis Winston started the entire season for the Saints, that team makes the playoffs. I guarantee you they make the playoffs if he stays healthy the entire season. Unfortunately, he didn't, but he's looking like he's going to be back and ready to go pretty soon. So I would really like it. I could see this being an option. This would be option number 3 for Chris Ballard for sure, because let's say the Raiders end up getting Marcus Mariota back, or let's say Marcus Mariota goes to another team, and then let's say Mitch Trubisky signs with the Giants. Well, obviously, if we're going to sign a free agent, Jameis is definitely the best option available at that point. So I could realistically see it happen, but I don't think it has as good of a chance of happening as Mitch Trubisky or Marcus Mariota being signed. So for me, I would like to see Jameis Winston on this team. He's like one of the few that I would be a fan of. But now we're going to move on to the draft because I do think the draft is something that is going to be used when it comes to the quarterback. If they sign somebody, they're going to go to the draft and they're going to get somebody they can develop for a year or two before moving on to them. So let's get into the guys I could see the Colts drafting. There's a few, for sure. There's absolutely a few. There's some guys that they're intrigued by. One of the guys I think they're intrigued by is Matt Corral. Matt Corral's a leader, man. He's absolutely a reader. Very good, very accurate, good with the deep ball. He can make the reads. He'll do the checkdowns. He does everything we want. And like I said, he's a good leader. There was a while before they played Alabama where Matt Corral was considered a potential Heisman favorite. He was playing really, really good football. Played against Alabama. That team was no match for Alabama at all. But Matt Corral wasn't terrible in that game at all. So Matt Corral, I definitely think is one of the guys that Chris Ballard is intrigued with. And at least unless whoever they get in the draft just falls apart and plays like crap, you should have them for more than one season. So there is that benefit too. So I do like me some Matt Corral, and I would be happy with a Matt Corral draft pick. So whether they have to trade into the first round or not, I think Matt Corral is definitely somebody they are realistically looking at as an option. The next quarterback I'll talk about, Desmond Ridder. I think Desmond Ridder is definitely an option. Played really well in Cincinnati, helped get Cincinnati to the college football playoff, which 2 years ago, if you asked me, will Cincinnati make the college football playoff? I would say no way. But he was able to help get Cincinnati to the playoffs. Big, big part of that. Very talented, had a really good combine. He's mobile, he's athletic, can make a lot of throws. Again, another leader, mature. He is a father, so you tend to become more mature as a dad, which I think is going to help him on the field. So yeah, I would be fine with Desmond Ridder if we don't trade up for him. I honestly would prefer to sit at 42, and if he happens to fall to 42, then take him there. I don't think that's going to be the case, though. I think he's going to be a first-round pick. But hey, if they trade up for him and they don't have to trade, a whole lot, okay, I'll be fine with trading up for him. But yeah, I like Desmond Ridder. He's not my favorite in this class, but I do like Desmond Ridder, and I would be fine with him on the team. I think he could be a good fit. So the next guy I'm going to talk about is Carson Strong, another Carson coming to the team. Um, I like Carson Strong. Good fundamentals, really good arm, can make all the reads you need him to. Again, checkdowns. He's a leader, very talented, can make just about any throw you need him to. Has a very, very, very strong arm. So that is definitely a positive. And he's one I think that's going to fall to the second round, for sure. Now, I don't know if they're interested in Matt Corral. I don't, or not Matt Corral, sorry, Carson Strong. I don't know if they have any interest in him, but I do think it's an option that is definitely one I think Chris Ballard would consider taking, especially if like a Matt Corral and Desmond Ridder are gone. I do think Carson Strong would be the guy that Chris Ballard would go after next because he does have everything you would want in a quarterback. So yeah, Carson Strong, I definitely think is realistic, and I would like it. I wouldn't love it, but I definitely would like it. And then option number 4, this is the last guy I'll talk about today, and then we'll wrap it up. Sam Howell. I think Sam Howell is the fourth guy I could realistically see Chris Ballard take. Um, Look, I don't know. I'm not a big fan of the potential of Sam Howell being our guy, but the thing with Sam Howell is this year he lost a lot of his weapons, and the team overall just wasn't that great. It was not anywhere near as good as North Carolina was the previous season. When he had weapons to throw to, and he had a good run game with Michael Carter, he was good, man. He was really good. He performed quite well, and I think he performed well enough to where a lot of people thought he was a top 3 quarterback in this class. Clearly Not the case anymore. You got guys like Kenny Pickett. You got guys like Malik Willis that are ahead of him now. Matt Corral, Desmond Ritter. I think Sam Howell is honestly probably quarterback 5 or 6 for most GMs. Um, I don't know. I'm not too big on it. If they draft him, then hey, I'm going to root for him. I don't like it. I would not like the move at all. But I could realistically see Sam Howell being drafted by the Colts. So there you guys have it. Those are all the quarterbacks I realistically could see Indianapolis go after. I'll list them all again. Starting off with the trades, then we'll go free agent and then draft last. We got, of course, Jimmy Garoppolo, Derek Carr. We got Jameis Winston. We got Mitch Trubisky, Marcus Mariota, Matt Corral, Desmond Ritter, Carson Strong, and Sam Howell. Those are the quarterbacks I realistically could see the Colts going after. Depends what they do. But hey, I think no matter what, one of these guys I listed are going to be the quarterback for the Indianapolis Colts. And that's going to do it, guys. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you're new or if you haven't already, I would greatly appreciate if you would click that subscribe button. Also, click the bell icon. That way you're notified when I upload a video or when I go live. If you like the video, smack the like button. Let me know your thoughts down below. Who do you want to see as the Colts quarterback? Let me know in the comments. And if you have Twitter, make sure you follow me on Twitter at horseshoe_pod. There's a link in the description down below. So thank you very much for watching. I've been Matt, Bleed Blue, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you like it, make sure you watch one of these other 2 videos. They're cool. Also, if you're new, please click the subscribe button as well as the bell icon. I greatly appreciate your support.